What happened to Jahlil Okafor? At one point, people saw Jahlil as a potential superstar type talent, but at this point, after struggling early on and never truly improving, he's on the outside of the NBA and looking in. There were so many different reasons for why Jahlil never panned out in the NBA, and in this video, we're gonna break them all down. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports, I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Jahlil Okafor was drafted with the number 3 overall selection all the way back in the 2015 NBA draft by the Philadelphia 76ers. At the time of the draft, there was a ton of excitement around his name. He was seen as an extremely talented player, especially on the offensive side of the court in the post area. He was seen as a guy that basically could score on whoever was defending him in the post. He had a great ability to put up that right-handed hook shot, that left-handed hook shot. He had tremendous footwork in the post, and overall in that post area, he was seen as a player that was very difficult to stop. And even though even at the time, it was becoming pretty clear that the new age NBA was coming and big men needed to be able to shoot, there was still a ton of excitement around Okafor's name. He was seen as an old school type player, but he was extremely talented in what he was able to do, so teams were still very excited about this guy. And in his rookie season, he played great. He averaged 17 points per game on 50% shooting from the field, 7 rebounds on 1.2 assists. Okafor was showing a lot of the same things that he was showing in college. He was showing a great ability to score for himself in that post area. He had a decent ability to run the pick and roll offense, and overall offensively, he just looked very talented. Now, as I touched upon before, he didn't have an ability to spread the floor at all. He didn't really have a mid-range jump shot, and he certainly did not have a three-point jump shot, but it wasn't seen as much of a concern due to the fact that he was so talented in what he was able to do. But unfortunately, that 2015 season ended up being the best year of his career, and he honestly just continued to get worse following that. In his second season, he only averaged 11 points per game on 51% shooting from the field, 4.8 rebounds on 1.2 assists. Now, this season was a significant decline from what he was doing the year prior. Now, there were a couple different factors like injuries, but overall it seemed like he was losing confidence, but also teams were starting to figure him out, and the lack of diversity to his game was really starting to affect him. It made it very difficult to have any other player on the court that wasn't able to shoot next to Okafor due to the fact that Okafor just couldn't shoot whatsoever. If the Sixers had a point guard, for example, that couldn't shoot, or a power forward that couldn't shoot, it would just be way too clogged up in the post, and it would make it impossible for Okafor to score, but also that other player as well, and really anybody that's looking to drive to the basket. So that lack of even a mid-range jump shot really started to become a factor early on, only in his second season, and it only got worse from there. The season following that 2016 year, he ended up getting moved to the Brooklyn Nets, and that season he didn't play much better, actually played much worse, averaging 6.4 points per game on 56% shooting from the field, 2.9 rebounds on 0.4 assists. That ended up being the only season he was with the Nets. Then he moved on to the Pelicans for 2 seasons, and then the last time he played in the NBA was with the Detroit Pistons in 2020. And at this point, when we look back at Okafor's career, he was a guy who had a ton of promise coming into the NBA, had a very successful rookie season, but ever since then really fell off quite quickly. Basically every team that he was on lost confidence in him pretty quickly, to be honest. But the question is why? Why did Jahlil Okafor fall off so quickly in the NBA? Well, in my opinion, it comes down to a couple different factors, but the main factor, which I slightly touched upon before, is the fact that Okafor was unwilling to advance his game. I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, but the new age NBA is here. Big men should most likely be able to shoot, at the bare minimum, a mid-range jump shot, or at least have some diversity within their games. But the fact that Okafor only had that post ability, and that's it, that really became a huge negative factor for him. Now, Okafor typically with the Pelicans tried to add that mid-range jump shot within his game, but it just really never panned out. He never turned into a decent shooter. And in my opinion, the fact that he was so one-dimensional was a huge reason for why he fell off basically right away. And it felt like Okafor would have been a really good player like 20 years ago. But at this point, it just seemed like he was way too one-dimensional and his game just didn't fit the new age NBA. But another reason for why I think he fell off so quickly was due to the lack of confidence. Now, typically when a player has a ton of expectations on him and he starts to play poorly early on, that really has a huge effect on his confidence. Because at that point, that player still is very young and they're not necessarily sure if they belong in the NBA yet. Maybe they can believe it in their minds, but at the end of the day, they haven't proven it to themselves yet. So the fact that Okafor started to play poorly really early on, only in his second season, must have had a significant effect on his confidence. And in my opinion, in that second season, he started to lose his confidence and he really never regained it back. And when you're a player that completely loses your confidence, it's going to be very difficult to play well in the NBA, and it's certainly going to be very difficult to get that confidence back. Confidence is for sure one of the most important things in the NBA, and that's a significant reason for why Okafor started to fall off. Now, the next reason for why I think Okafor started to fall off so quickly was due to his lack of defense. Now, I mentioned that he was very one-dimensional offensively, but if he was a really good defender, or just pretty good defender, in my opinion, I think he would have stuck around a little bit more and got more of an opportunity. But the fact that he was so one-dimensional offensively, and the fact that teams were starting to figure him out, and he just wasn't all that effective like he was in his rookie season, but also when you consider the fact that he was actually pretty bad on the defensive side of the court, you understand why it was pretty difficult for teams to throw him out there. When you're throwing a guy out there, no matter who it is, he at the very least, at the bare minimum, needs to be very good on one side of the court. Either a really good defender or really good offensive player. Players that are really good at both are the better players, of course, but the bare minimum requirement is good on one or the other. But for Okafor, although he was very talented in what he did offensively, it started to become ineffective due to defenses finding it out. So the fact that he wasn't becoming all that effective offensively, but also not good defensively, just made it very difficult for teams. And in my opinion, that's also a huge reason for why Okafor fell off so quickly. Now the question is, could Jahlil Okafor make it back to the NBA at some point? Because he has some experience playing in the G League, it seems like at this point he's going to go sign over in China, and it's just very interesting to see where his career goes from here. Well, in my opinion, I do think Okafor needs to make significant changes if he wants to make it back to the NBA. He's certainly going to need to add that mid-range jump shot at the bare minimum, but also show out in China if he does end up signing there. He needs to be a player that regains the dominance that he once had, but he needs to tweak how he does it. He can still go to that same post ability that he has and is really good at, but also add some other aspects to your game. Add the pick and pop offense to your game from that mid-range area, add that catch and shoot mid-range jump shot, maybe a little bit of a post turnaround and fadeaway. Just add some more versatility to your game and just give your teammates that ability to spread the floor out. If Okafor is able to make some of those changes, I do think he's going to get one more opportunity in the NBA. But if he does get that opportunity and he doesn't play well, I think that would probably be it for him at that point. And maybe even at this point, Jahlil's NBA career is done with. It seems like that is a real possibility, but I do think if he makes significant changes, he's always going to have an opportunity to come back, just due to the fact that he was a former number 3 overall selection, and it was pretty clear that he does have a ton of talent. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening with Jahlil Okafor. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Okafor has a chance to make it back to the NBA, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.